No, son. You messed up. You clicked on this video, son. No, bro, you messed up. Don't listen to this video, bro. Trust me. I know the list. He about to talk about the 25 best albums of the year, bro. This list is wrong, bro. I saw it. It's wrong. You don't want this list. How you gonna have a list? It ain't got no Drake. It ain't got no Young Boy on it. Ain't got no Future on it. Ain't got DJ Khaled on it. It ain't got Kanye on it. What's wrong with this list, bro? It ain't got the hits on it, bro. How you gonna have a list? He talking about he wanna have a list of albums that you ain't never heard of. Albums that, how is the best album of the year ain't nobody heard? If I haven't heard it, that must mean that list is wrong. You expect me to learn? You expect me to learn? This ain't school, bro. I'm not here to learn. I'm here to have my opinions validated, bro. I just want you to tell me the stuff I like is dope. I don't want to hear nothing new. If I wanted to learn, I'd go to Kanye's school, bro. That's the only way I'm learning. So no, we ain't got, no, D Roth, no, D Roth, you not gonna cut me off, bro. Don't cut me off. Don't cut me off. Don't listen to the video, bro. Don't listen to it. You gonna learn. My players, thank you for joining your boy once again for the latest edition. Yes, the latest edition of the Soul and Stereo Sessions right here on YouTube. You know where you are. You don't need me to remind you. And you know what it's time for. It's the time of the year where everybody's getting their best of lists together. I've seen some of these best of list players. Do you listen to music or do you just skim through it? Listen to your boy, because I have listened to 174 albums this year. It's a whole lot of music and a whole lot of garbage to shift through. But despite those who have the most popular albums on the list or the ones with the most sales, we get into the nitty gritty here on the Soul and Stereo Sessions, because you know how your boy do. I'm not here for hype. I'm not here for buzz. I'm here for dope music. So I'm going to tell you today the 25 best. We're talking quality. We're not talking hype. 25 best albums of the year. But before we get started in that, you know what to do. D Roth gonna show you. Hit like right quick. Hit subscribe right quick if you haven't already. If you're not one of our subscribers, hook that up. And if you are, thank you for the subscription. And share, because there's a lot of lists out here. Let's show some people the love that they deserve by giving them the good stuff. Share this so they can get 25 dope albums in their life. And the thing that I love about this list, just to be honest, my passion for doing these videos for soulandstereo.com, for the Soul Back podcast, I just like sharing dope music with my friends. And that's what it's here for. I'm not going to talk about music that everybody always knows. In fact, you're going to know quite a few of the albums on this list. But some probably going to be new to you. And to me, that's the coolest part. Introducing your friends to new music. That makes my old man icy cold heart pitter patter. So today we're going to do that. 25 of the best hip hop, R&B albums of the year that have crossed my path. That's what I'm here to do. To share the love to y'all. We got a long way to go. So let's get started with number 25. Coming in at number 25, the homie Rome Streetz, Kiss the Ring. You're going to notice on this list, there's a whole lot of Griselda representation here. And that's no exception, because Griselda has their fingerprints. My boy Westside Gunn in particular. We're going to get him in a minute. His fingerprints are all over this list and this album in particular. I love Rome Streetz because he's the type of MC that I came up on. An MC's MCs. You got bars, you got punchlines, hit quick, fast, in a hurry, but they aren't just the sloppy, goofy punchlines. I feel like Lil Wayne, and no shade to Wayne because he is quite an innovator. He was the one that kind of pushed this narrative forward of punchline rappers, where it's not a lot of substance, it's just Catchy bar, catchy bar, catchy bar, catchy bar. Fabulous was another one in that lane. Rome puts a little bit more meat to those punchlines, and with that, he's developed an album that's not just full of quotables, but it's got some substance as well to it. Again, it's got that Griselda stamp, so you got the unorthodox beats, the sampling, and the grittiness. This is an album that a lot of people miss, but you don't miss it. Go check that out. Coming in at number 24, Absol Herbert. So, for those who saw my original list on soulandstereo.com, we have 50, yes, 50 albums of the year. This is 25 because I can't keep y'all attention that long. We might do 50 at another time. But we're doing the top 25, and doing this list a little bit later than my original post at the end of December means I could slide some late entries in, and this one was deserving of the spot. So you won't find this on soulandstereo.com. This is exclusive to YouTube. See what happens when you subscribe? Hit the button if you haven't already. Anyway, I am a huge fan of Absol. I love his work, and if you ask me and the whole TDE Black Hippie Collective, I said that he was number 2 to just Kendrick, and I stand by that. I know y'all like Schoolboy Q. Yeah, alright. No shade to J Roth though, I like him too. But the point is, I thought Absol had so much heart and substance in his bars, and he's took quite the hiatus, and if you listen to this album, you'll understand why. Absol just absolutely bears his soul and talks about all of the struggles he's had over these past few years, why he wanted to quit doing this, why unfortunately he almost quit his own life. But the honesty that he shows, the delivery, and I just love his flow. It's so effortless, but it's almost an element of storytelling as well. That really works here for Herbert. It is a life story. We learn so much about Ab. And not only is solo as charismatic as ever, the production is great, but most importantly, it seems like he's found himself again as an artist and as a brother. I'm very happy, very proud of what he's done. This is an album that deserves that last minute slide into the list. Sorry for anybody who got knocked off. I think it was my girl, Nicole Ray. Sorry, Nicole Ray. I love you. Had to knock her to the honorable mentions. But this is a reason why this album is another one that's very much worth your listen. Coming in number 23, my girl Alex Isley, Jack Dine Marigold. We talked about this album earlier this year when I did my list of the 25 best albums of the year so far, and clearly it stood the test of time because it's still here. This album reminds me of the days of neo soul. If neo soul was still around as a genre, and it's so sad that it isn't, as compared to where it was in the early 2000s, this album would be a flagship as part of that genre. So soulful, so laid back, but even though it's soulful and laid back, it's never snoozy, it's never lazy, it's never mumbly. Some of your friends and faves need to pick up on that. You got Janae Aiko literally writing lullabies right now. We knew she'd been writing lullabies. Anyway, Alex not only has a laid back delivery and presentation for her music, she also does it in a way that's still captivating. She is just one of the newest artists that have come from a legacy. And the legacy in this case are the Isley brothers. Yep, she's related to them Isleys. And if you check out my full list on soulandstereo.com, you'll see I shouted out the Isley brothers album as well. But you got the young Isley starting to rise above that legacy. Look at that. Outshining her granddad and uncles and them. Look at that. You doing good. This album is a must for R&B fans. One of the better R&B outings of the year. Definitely check it out. Coming in at number 22, Ransom, No Rest for the Wicked. Ransom is another one of these MCs that's been doing it on such a high level for such a long time. And it's weird and disappointing to me that sometimes his name is not celebrated nearly as much as it should be. I've seen some of these top 10 lists y'all put out. Ransom's album eats it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The reason why I love Ransom though is because you know what you can get every single time. Hard bars, hard storytelling, impeccable flow, and this album is very soulful in its production, and it marries really well with his presentation and delivery. Plus, look at that album cover. Man, that thing will scare you into purchasing it. It's like the last boss of a Final Fantasy game. Anyway, this album is dope. Ransom is incredible, and I hope 2023 will be a year where we can finally shine the light on him. This album is definitely one of the ones you gotta keep your eye on. Coming in at number 21, Michi Darko, Gothic Luxury. If that name doesn't sound familiar, I'll remind you, because my boys, the Flatbush Zombies, yes, Michi is the standout voice from that group. And I'll take it back in time. When I first heard the Flatbush Zombies, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, they were such an interesting collective to me. And we are really missing in hip-hop collectives. We don't get them as much as we used to. We had a few. Shout out to Coast Contra. Again, check out the Soul and Stereo list to see them on that previous list. But it's really rare that you get rap groups that are really doing it. Earth Gang, Coast Contra, a few. But I really love what they were doing because they were MCs that all stood out individually. It wasn't like 4 carbon copy guys or anything like that. These are MCs that stood out. And the one who stood out the most was Michi Darko. This dude's voice sounded like some kind of gremlin in some horror movie. In the best ways, though. Because not only is he just a scary, commanding presence in that DMX style, but he also has a lot of heart and insight into his lyrics. Again, like DMX. Gothic Luxury, as you could probably guess, is a pretty freaking dark album on the surface, but there's so much heart when you listen to what he's saying, what he's presenting. He's a man with a very scary exterior, but kind of a tender interior. He has a lot on his mind, and he's always willing to share. I love when you can just spot talent from way back with Flatbush. I was like, this dude is going to be it. And he's finally getting his chance to shine. This album lived up to expectations. Great album. Love Michi. Check it out. Coming in at number 20. I don't have 20 fingers. Sorry. Coming in at number 20. Danger Mouse, Black Thought, Cheat Codes. This is another album that you just knew was going to be special when you heard about it. You've got Black Thought, 30-year vet in the game, one of the greatest lyricists, if not the greatest lyricist in the game right now. Everybody goes back to the freestyle he had that went viral, and everybody's like, this guy is so great. Catch up, player. We knew he was great 30 years ago. I'm glad you're on board. No one here would question Black Thought. Then you got Danger Mouse, another one of these incredible producers who might not always get the mainstream credit that he deserves, but if you look at his run sheet of hits, the man has credible hits to his name. Marrying those two together, you got magic. Black Thought, of course, done most of his work with The Roots as part of that collective, but when it comes to solos, he's done his Stream of Thoughts EP series that has done pretty well for itself. Most of those have landed on my top 20, top 50 lists over the past few years. This is an extension of that. If you are familiar with those EPs, you know what you're getting here. You're getting crazy bars, but this time you also have the oversight of Danger Mouse behind them, and it works because he knows how to pair his production with someone like Black Thought and just stand out of the way and let my boy go nuts. Aquamarine, if you have not heard it, is one of the best tracks of the year. Absolutely bananas when it comes to the lyrical dexterity and breath control, flow and delivery. All of those buzzwords are here and present in every track. Black Thought is a gem to hip hop. Having him paired with Danger Mouse just continues that legacy. So he branches a little bit away from the roots, but it just proves what we've already said. The dude is one of the best ever. Cheat Codes proves that. Coming in at number 19, King LJ PTSD. This is another album we talked about in the top albums of the year so far list a few months ago, and this is one that I stand by as well. King LJ is an MC from right here in Birmingham where I am based. And I know you can say, oh, you just putting your boys on. I ain't putting my boys on, because trust me, my boys will know if I shout you out, it's some heat. No favoritism over here, homies. This album is one that's definitely worth more recognition. There's been a lot of albums and discussions, especially on this list that we'll get to later, that talk about mental health, because mental health is becoming a topic that's bigger in pretty much all of society right now. And he does that in such an expert way. King LJ talks about the mental health aspect of being a black man, what it takes and the toll it takes on the psyche, what we do to try to prove ourselves. He does it in such an expert way. The production is very great. Shout out to my boy Kill Pratt and others here based in Birmingham who helped create the sound around this album. It's so meaningful, it's the best way I can put it, because it's so touching in the way that he can talk about and break down these troubles that all men go through. And even though if you aren't a black man, there's so much that you can still relate to as well, as far as family and just straight up MCing overall. My boy LJ is doing it. He's an MC on the rise. When he blows up, don't say that I didn't put you on, because I put you on first. That's what I do right here. Check out PTSD. Coming in at number 18, Freddie Gibbs, Big Boss Rabbit himself, sold separately. Ugh, that's like selling seashells by the seashore. Y'all killing me, these album titles. Ugh, I need a new tongue. Anyway, if you have followed me for a while, you know that I'm a huge Freddie Gibbs fan. And after his run of the past few years with Bandana and Alfredo and some of the other albums that have come before this, I made the very controversial, if you want to call it that, statement on Twitter when I said that it's time. It is time to start putting Freddie in the conversations of one of the best rappers of his generation. I stand by what I said because the talent is there and he's got the resume to prove it. So Separately, though, is an album that's a little bit away from kind of the grittier underground themes, and it feels like it's grasping a little bit toward mainstream cred. Nothing wrong with that. I don't mind that as long as you don't lose who you are in the process. And for the most part, Freddie's still Freddie. There are some songs at the beginning of the album that I was like, yeah, not really feeling that. That feels like you're trying to grab streams. But those are quick and kind of go along their way, because as the album goes along, it gets a lot more cohesive. And then we really get the Freddie that we enjoy. The bars are here. Then not only do we have the humor, the reason why I really love Freddie is that through the humor and of course the coke talk and the drug talk, because that's always going to be there with him, there's a lot of insight. There's a lot of kind of perceptions of what's going on in our world at large, and he throws them in. He just slides them in real quick, but you have to catch it. Like when he breaks down what CIA stands for in the song, I won't spoil it here for those who missed it. Is he wrong, really? I don't know. That's his view of the world, but he backs it up because he just has so much insight where it's easy to laugh off. But, I mean, you can laugh, but there's a lot of thought there too. He's a sly fox, that Freddie Gibbs. You should call him Freddie Fox. Sorry, that's taken. Anyway, the point is, Soul Separately is a great album, and it's one that continues to add to his legacy. Is he one of the best of his generation? I say so. And if you listen to the video, clearly you want to hear what I say. So yes, one of the best of his generation. Coming in at number 17, Benny the Butcher, Tana Talk 4. Probably, I would say, the crown jewel of the Griselda releases this year. We had Westside with quite a few albums. We had Conway with quite a few albums. We talked a little bit earlier about Rome Streets, but I think Benny beats them all. Just a little bit, I think he beats them all. Benny has also said many times, and I've agreed, that when it comes to the Griselda hierarchy, he's kind of the one with like the most star power. And that doesn't mean that the others aren't stars, but there's a presence about Benny that not only is he as street as can be. He has his charisma and his flow and his energy that just makes him feel larger than life. That is very much present here on Tana Talk 4 because he's talking that Tana talk, but he's also has the connections and the charisma and the connections and things that will take him to the upper echelon to stardom. As we all know, and I think most of us can agree, and even if we disagree slightly, you'll understand where we come from. His collaboration with J. Cole is, in my opinion, the best hip-hop song of the year. Johnny P's Caddy, my favorite song of the year. One of Cole's best verses in a while. And Benny's no slouch. He rides along with it too. But this is not just a one-song album. There are plenty of other tracks there that just flow into it. And thanks to the somewhat cohesiveness of the album, especially by 2023 standards, these behemoth albums, he's able to have a project that's concise, that's coherent, and it continues to push his legacy forward as being kind of the standard bearer for Griselda. In my opinion, it's the best of the Griselda releases this year and a pretty banner year for those guys. Every year they seem to dominate. It keeps going here. Benny's that dude, and this is his best. Coming in at number 16, India Shawn, Before We Go Deeper. So, and you might be wondering, why is it called Deeper in parentheses? And some people might say, oh, player, you cheating. You can't put this album on the list. Let me explain. Before We Go Deeper is a release that is basically a compilation of EPs that India Shawn has put out in recent memory. So there are some new songs here. So it's not just a rehash. It's not like a greatest hits by any means. But it is kind of a hodgepodge of old stuff with a few new things. But the reason why I think it is worthy of inclusion as being its own full album is because even though all these kind of desperate parts are put together, it flows like one complete unit. If you hadn't heard those EPs and you heard these songs, you'd think it was all new material because that's how well it flows together. And India Shawn, I have said many times before, in my opinion, is one of the artists who I think can finally get R&B out of this little rut that we've been in for over a decade. My God, I'm begging you to give us something new. And she's one of those who are doing it because she knows how to marry those throwback flows, that throwback production with new age sensibilities. So many of the children love to hit your boy and say, oh, you just wanted to be like the 90s again. No, I don't. We wore baggy clothes in the 90s that did not age well. There's lots of stuff in the 90s that ain't really popping anymore. You ever go back and look at some old Jerry Springer? I'm like, we watched this? We had this on TV? This is insane. The 90s was not all it cracked up to be, but the music was dope, and what we can learn from the 90s is what excelled there and bring that into this generation with a younger mindset, new sensibilities, and taking that and refining it. That's what India Shawn does here so well. We've got the great mid-tempos, we've got the slow jams, and her voice just accentuates all that. Before We Go Deeper is one of the ones to keep an eye on, and I can't wait till we get a full length release from my girl. Deeper. Coming in at number 15, DJ Premier, Hip Hop 50, Volume 1. So, this is another album people are probably going to side-eye me on because this isn't an album at all. It's an EP. And a very brief EP at that. But, like I tell you all the time, like my church folks say at my church, it ain't got to be long to be strong, y'all. All I need is a consistently good release from top to bottom. That's what that is. Now, when you're DJ Premier, you know everybody and anybody. And when you know when a primo beat crosses your path, you have to bring your A game when it comes to that. So that's what Primo does. He gets a kind of hodgepodge of artists for collaborations. They look kind of weird on paper, but it works because everybody's bringing their A game because it's a Primo beat. You don't go halfway on a Primo beat. You go hard. Ain't no mumbling on a Primo beat. Ain't no auto-tuning and whining and crooning on a Primo beat. You go in. And each of these artists here do that under the guise of this celebration of hip-hop. That's what we have here. And even though it's very short, and some of the collaborations head scratching on paper, I think it works really well, and I think it's because ain't nobody trying to let Primo down. It's a real short release that really flew under the radar for most people. It's one of those albums that kind of came and went on Twitter, trended for like a half a day, went away. But you know me, it immediately caught my eye and never left it since. One of my favorites of the year, obviously because it's number 15, but one that I think does hip-hop's legacy very well. Check it out. Coming in at number 14, my girl Leia, Hello. This release is one of my favorites of the year. If I had to be unbiased, gotta be unbiased here. If I wasn't unbiased, it would probably be in the top 3 or 4 or 5 because I love the creativity behind it and I love her approach to music. If you know me, you know I'm a huge fan of Timbaland, Missy, the Super Friends, I should say, of the late 90s, and I love them because of their unorthodox approach to music. This was an era when music looked like one thing. You had hip-hop, everybody was street dudes in their Timbs, you had R&B, you had everybody in their prom dresses, you had the brothers in the suits with the jacket open and the chest hanging out. Although they were starting to change a little bit as hip-hop tried to infiltrate it. We got a little bit more urban with thanks to Jodeci and a few others. But the point is, hip-hop and R&B looked a certain way. But when the Super Friends came, they changed everything. The way production was done. Timbaland putting a beat on top of a beat, on top of a beat, on top of a beat. You got Missy in a trash bag dancing around and her weird, kind of unorthodox flow. They broke every rule in the book and it worked. That creativity has been passed on to Leia. She caught my eye earlier this year with her wild, insane videos. Check them out on YouTube after you watch this video, of course. You can go do that afterwards. But I was just captivated by her videos. They were so late 90s in their creativity. This wasn't just some random standing in front of a car getting filmed with an iPhone going back and forth like most videos today. There was lots of thought, creative energy that was put behind it, and that's reflected in her music. Not only does she have the soulful R&B songs, but she's got the delivery that's also very hip-hop as well. But it goes beyond the usual Migos flow that everyone is copying and caping. And she puts her own spin on it. She actually makes music that is very reflective of her uniqueness and her creativity. And again, that's what harkens back to Missy and Friends. That's why I like Hello. It's kind of this weird theme based around phones and calling, and it doesn't make sense when you say it, but when you hear the album, it makes total sense. And she is an artist that continues to break every rule, marrying both hip-hop and R&B in a way that's so creative and so fun. And there's so much energy to this album. I just listen to this album and smile, and you know me, smiles don't come often. I just came from Christmas and my parents were like, smile in your picture, smile. And I'm like, I am smiling. But Leia, she makes me smile. Check out her album, Hello. Great fun, and an artist that I am very sure is on the rise. Coming in at number 13. Lucky 13, not Unlucky 13. Hey, Unlucky 13 with Lucky Day, Candy Drip. I promise I didn't plan that, y'all. That just came to me. A vision from the Lord. If you are a fan of soul and stereo, you already know the 4 words we live by in that hallowed space. Lucky Day don't miss. Not ever. He don't miss. And once again, your boy is never wrong because Lucky Day does not miss, delivering one of the best R&B albums of the past year. What makes this album so good? First, Lucky is a great writer. He's actually very talented at putting the whole lyrical thing together, and it's something that we've taken for granted back in decades past, but it's something we really embrace now when every song sounds like an Instagram caption. I know y'all love the SZA album, and I actually liked a lot of songs on that album. There's a reason why it ain't on my top 25. Gotta tighten up some of these lyrics. Anyway, because I'm sure I'm canceled after saying that. Beyond that, Lucky was able to not only have great writing, but he is very, very, how should I put this? You never know how he's going to approach a song. You may have a song that's a traditional R&B ballad. You may have a song like the NWA influenced track that's much more hip-hop inspired. You may have a song like Ego that just has the most captivating, infectious hook that I've heard in forever. I just sit around saying, Ego, 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 Ego. He has so much creativity and diversity in every song that he does, but it all fits together. So you can have a song as beautiful as Cherry Forest, but you can have one with a familiar sample from our boy Music Soul Child like Over, and you can tie all of that together into one project. This album, while it might not be as traditionally R&B all the time as his previous effort Painted, which was very good by the way, this album to me shows much more of the tools in his tool set, and it works so well. And plus the ladies love that album cover. Man, look like a human honey bun. Y'all can have that. I'm here for the music because Lucky Day Don't Miss. Lucky number 13. Coming in at number 12, Snoop Dogg. Yes, Snoop Doggy Dogg, back on Death Row, BODR. Yes, I am as surprised as you that it's 2022 and we are shouting out our Snoop Dogg album on a top 25 list. And, you know, when you think about it, it's kind of unfair because when it comes to Snoop, we kind of have him in the same category as Nas, in the same category as Michael Jackson, and I'll explain what I mean there, is that they have this one album that everybody loves and adores and is critically acclaimed. And no matter what they put out afterward, they're like, oh, it ain't better than Thriller. Oh, I bet you ain't better than Illmatic. I bet you ain't better than Doggy Style. And yes, you're right. It's not, whatever they do, it's not going to beat any of that stuff. But it doesn't mean that it's not quality, great music. Back on Death Row takes that because he's back on Death Row. He owns this stuff now, and he harkens back to those days. Earlier this year, I ranked every Snoop Dogg album on SoulandStereo.com. Whew, what a project. And Snoop has some good albums, and he has some not good albums. This album definitely leans toward one of his better releases ever because it harkens back to the energy he had at his peak, along with the strong production that he had at his peak. But not only that, he's just surrounded by a lot of energy that shows that he's motivated. He feels like a motivated dog once again, instead of a guy that's going through the motions. Snoop has really impressed me with this one, and I know some people might side-eye it, and I know we're going to hear, hey, better than Dog. No, it's not better than Doggy Style. But guess what? Your mixtape ain't better than Doggy Style either. It's not better than one of the best hip-hop albums of all time, but it is one of the best hip-hop albums of 2022. Coming in at number 11, my boy Vince Staples, Ramona Park, Broke My Heart. Vince's last album, I think it dropped last year. I know it was met with a little bit of a tepid response. I liked it, but I can understand why some people thought it was a little too sonically weird. This album for Vince fans, and I think for just hip-hop fans in general, will be a little bit easier to swallow. Also because it has a universal theme. Being heartbroken by some random girl. And that's what this album is all about. So we've got Vince Staples, an artist who is, of course, very lyrically talented and also a great storyteller. This album allows him to do both with better production, a lot stronger focus, and he just sounds hungry. Vince is an artist who, in my opinion, rarely misses at all. So this is an opportunity to continue to build upon that momentum. Another album that is probably a little bit underrated for what it is, because I know some people have a perception of a poor Vince, and I'm like, oh, you know, he's alright. But no, he's a better MC than you give him credit for. And this album is a lot better than you give him credit for, too. We're here. We are at the top 10, and coming in at number 10 is my boy, Lupe Fiasco, Drill Music in Zion. You know, we talked a little earlier about Snoop and his perception of, oh, his best days are behind him because he put out his best and nothing's going to top that and yada, yada, yada. Lupe has kind of the same struggle because there was a point about, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, we thought Lupe was it. I've written before that I feel that Lupe should be where Kendrick Lamar is right now in terms of notoriety and success and just adoration, because his talent is immeasurable. He made a few missteps. We'll talk about those another time. You know, some self-inflicted, some not really his fault, but he stumbled a little bit at kind of his peak of his career. And a lot of people wrote him off, but that's not fair because yeah, he stumbled. And that album that everybody hates really ain't that bad, y'all. Go check it out. It ain't that bad. But the point is, he has recovered and dropped some incredible stuff since then. And this is another example of that. This album apparently was just recorded, according to the rumor that is, was just recorded off in his crib in a couple days, maybe a couple weeks. He recorded it, did it all himself. And if this is what you can do from just self-started, I feel like a piece of garbage. Because I could never do something of this quality just off on my own in the living room. This album, it might be called Drill Music in Zion, but I called it Jazz Music in Zion because this jazzy production reminds me a lot of the early 90s. That tribe era where jazziness was really kind of taking over the genre. And he does that so well here. And of course, it's Lupe. You're going to have some incredible storytelling. You're going to have some incredible lyricism. On Four and Them, if there was ever a song in 2022 to define what was going on, it would be this one. The first verse, all you have to do is listen to the first verse, and it basically lays out the horrors that we have gone through in 2022. No jokes. Go check that out. After you watch this video, you hear that first verse and you'll be like, what? It's very, my boy is, forget Nostradamus, he's Nostradamus when it comes to predicting what would happen in 2022. That just shows the foresight that Lupe has, the insight that he has, and the incredible ability of storytelling, very heartfelt, tugging at the heartstring storytelling that he's able to give us. Lupe hasn't lost a step. No matter what you heard, the boy is still killing it on every level. Coming in at number 9, JID The Forever Story. So, this is one of those artists that everybody hypes on Twitter. And for the longest time, I didn't get it. I heard him on features. I heard his earlier stuff. I thought he was okay. Well, I'll say he's a little better than okay. I thought he was good, but I just did not see what the hype was. There are a lot of artists that fall into that. I won't name names. I'll name it another time just so you can go yell in the comments about how horrible I am because I don't like your favorite. But the point is this. This album was the one that really turned me around on this guy. So, a few tracks into this JID album, I was like, this is alright. I don't see why everybody's screaming this is the album of the year. Because I heard it maybe a month after it released. So the buzz was kind of heavy. Everyone's going nuts over it. And I'm like, it's alright. But when we got around track 4, 5, and 6, it started to gel. The storytelling started coming together. And I never questioned his lyricism. That's always been strong. The production was hitting. Everything was a go. So even though it was a slow start for me, it finished very fast. And that's kind of my relationship and story with JID as an artist as well, because even though I recognized it, it was a slow start for me to embrace his work. This is the first album that's allowed me to embrace him totally as an artist. So yes, I can stay on record and say that this dude is dope, and this is the album that put it there for me. So if you were like me and you kind of were like, I don't see what the big deal is with the guy. I guess he can rap a little bit. He's not really connecting with me. This album, with its connection of storytelling, talking about his family, talking about his influences, and what he can do as a member of his community to be better and stronger, this is the album that might make that connection for you. Gotta admit, I'm kind of a JID fan now. Who knew? Coming in at number 8, Fife Dog Forever. So, many people may know my opinions of posthumous albums. If you don't, I'll tell you, I hate them. They're almost always terrible. But here's the thing with this album. You can tell when an album is just a cash grab, when the estate has grabbed a bunch of random pieces of tracks, slapped them together, thrown them out there to capitalize. And you can tell when a project is made with love. That's why Forever is such an incredible piece of work. And it's almost kind of meta in a way, because a lot of these songs you can tell that Fife was writing and talking to the incomparable J Dilla and his passing, and what his passing, how it affected him. But then now we've lost Fife. So through that, you have all these people who are collaborating alongside him, who are in their own ways celebrating Fife by collaborating with them, basically telling Fife how much we support and love him through that message. That's an extra layer that makes this album so important, so impactful, and one of the true innovators and pioneers of hip-hop. To go out on a high note is very, very strong. I know Fife, a lot of people are like, oh, he wasn't that great of an MC and blah, blah, blah. Well, this is me talking, and you know how picky I can get. I don't agree with that. I think that he was very good at what he did. He was a fun MC, and he's able to convey that here. This is an album that really feels energetic, fun, vibrant, full of life, and that's how we remember him. That album very much just gives you that, and it's a great legacy to the career of a great man, a hip-hop pioneer. If there's any artists out here who we have to leave on unfortunate circumstances, and we have a tribute album to them, this should be a blueprint. When it comes to tribute albums, I cannot think of one better, one that does the legacy of Fife and any artist who helped shape this genre we love any better. Coming in at number 7, another one that snuck in under the wire, Little Simz, No Thank You. So, this album did make the Soul and Stereo list, but literally a day before I hit publish, this album dropped. I got my hands on it. I heard it. I'm like, oh no, brother, we got to make room for this. Poor Coco Jones. I'm sorry, I had to knock you to the honorable mentions because you were going to be number 50, I think. Sorry, Lil Simz knocked you out, boo. So, Lil Simz is an artist. When I hear these conversations on social media, I think it was Hitmaker and China Doll or someone recently arguing. What's her name? China Doll, Asia Doll. I'm old. I don't know all these new chicks' names. But they were talking about how female rappers all rap about sex. And then she was saying, oh, well, you rappers only rap about the same thing, drugs and killing and booty. I mean, they're both kind of right. Yes, both kind of rap about a lot of stuff all the time. But that's just kind of mainstream rap. If you look deeper, there are many, many, many female MCs who are giving a woman's perspective and using their God-given talent to do that. Lil Simz is actually no exception to that. She teams here with producer Inflow, who you might know from Salt and that incredible R&B instrumental group. They're so enigmatic, but the production is so great, and they're a match made in heaven. We talk about Nas and we talk about the chemistry he has with Hit Boy, but these two have some chemistry of their own. And with this, Lil Simz puts out one of her best projects to date. A very personal one, but one that's very, very tight and cohesive. I think it's at 10 tracks, so it doesn't outstay its welcome. And her intensity and her delivery is just so enthralling. And that's what pulls you into every song. Look, she is an artist that, again, might not get the headlines of a Megan or an Asia Doll, China Doll, whatever doll I'm messing up. I'm sounding like somebody's uncle because I can't remember the names. But beyond Blueface and his girlfriend or whatever female MC is doing their thing, there are lots of women here that are taking things to a higher level. And it's fine. Y'all can talk about all the nails and baby hairs that you want to. But there's more to hip-hop than that. And that is what Lil Sims is doing. I'm very proud of what she's doing. I'm very happy that she's bringing a different perspective into this male-dominated genre. And she's doing it at the highest level. She's not just a dope female MC. She's a dope woman with bars. Coming in at number 6, Joey Badass at 2000. So, if you were around 2012 or so, the blog era of rapping, I'm sure you know my boy Joey because his 1999 mixtape was the truth. And the reason why it worked so well is because he was able to marry both sides of the hip-hop spectrum. He had the young people who were his age, who could relate to what he was saying and really connect with his bars. And then the old heads like me that missed the boom bap era, that missed the days of MCs being MCs. And he could bring both those worlds together, like the meme of the two dudes with the muscle hands doing that. That is what Joey's music was doing. 2000 is a continuation of that. And while none of his projects, in my opinion, have reached the level of 1999, I think most would say that, I think 2000 comes really close because this is an opportunity for him to not only kind of dip his toe into mainstream waters, and again, nothing wrong with that as long as you don't sell out your sound, but also keep that same street level boom bap that he is able to do. Kind of like we talked about King LJ a little earlier, he takes the opportunity to talk about mental health and to talk about issues that are a little bit deeper than bars and money and girls or whatever. Because he is an MC's MC and he knows how to ride that boom bap production and that pro era kind of unit that he's part of and be their flagship, and he pushes it forward. Every release that Joey drops, again, it's going to be compared to his mixtape that was so critically acclaimed. And even if it doesn't beat it, that doesn't mean that it doesn't have the quality that is needed. He, in my opinion, continues to raise his game as he evolves as an artist. He's not trying to be the same guy he was in 2012, but he's trying to be a better MC 10 years later. And I think he's succeeding with that. This album, surprisingly, well maybe not surprisingly in this era, kind of came and went. But it's one that, again, like most of these on this list, deserves much more love. That's why it comes in at number 6. Coming in at number 5, Ari Lennox, Age, Sex, Location. Poor Ari. She's already talking about how like, oh, I'm going to do one more tour and I'm going to retire. Ari, you retire every 3 minutes. I don't go nowhere. Your music's too good. Stop pretending. You know you ain't going nowhere. Keep dropping the heat. And once again, this album is one that hits very hard. I loved her debut. I thought her debut was great. In my opinion, this even beats it. And I'll tell you why. So, over on Twitter, yes, that place, there was a conversation not long ago asking if she was the new Mary J. Blige. If she was this generation's Mary J. And we've heard this before. I've heard it with Summer Walker. I've heard it with a few others. But if somebody, first of all, I'm always weird about those comparisons because it's unfair. You're comparing an artist who's been out for roughly 5 or 6 years or so as far as mainstream accolades to a 30-year icon. Like, that's not gonna work. There's two different playing fields. But if you want to talk about women who are able to use their music to connect to the struggles that women are going through, you got Summer, you got SZA, and they do that well. But in my opinion, although I ain't a woman, so who am I to talk? I love that she's able to do it at a high level. She can tell the experiences, but she can also keep the quality solid and consistent throughout the board. That's what Ari does on this album. I love that she's able to kind of throw in a few throwback elements. She's got songs that sound like they were plucked from D'Angelo's Brown Sugar. She's got some great writing. Of course, my boy Lucky Day, because he don't miss, I told you so. Their duet is some of the best writing I've heard because you got this, I love that it's like this two banter between artists. Again, something that was not rare back in the day, but is rare now because the writing has to convey the messages. The conversation that the pair are having sounds like a real conversation and not Twitter bots yelling at each other. like they're having a real conversation between humans. This album is just so raw, but raw in a way that feels realistic and not raw in a way that feels performative, over the top. It feels like she's bearing her emotions, and if she's mad, she's mad. If she's happy, she's happy. If she's looking for love and hopeful, she's that. She's not just, I'm gonna wild out just so y'all can retweet me. It feels like a genuine emotional experience, and with her vocals improving, her writing improving, I think Ari is one who is willing to take R&B to another level. R&B was not the best year for me, just speaking, and you can go through and look at my list of 50 on soulandstereo.com. I'm doing a lot of plugging on soulandstereo.com today, but yeah, it's needed. There were a lot of albums that got a lot of attention, but very few that really hit the next level for me. This is one that gives me a little bit of hope for R&B in the coming years. Coming in at number 4, my boy Duran Bernard, Wanderlust. And I talked a second ago about albums that give hope to R&B. This is the one right here. I'm going to say a controversial statement, and I know that is so shocking to people watching this, but feel me. Duran Bernard should be a star, a S-T-A-R. And I know he's probably watching this. He's like, what you talking about? I am a star. Yeah, you are, homie. But I mean, you need to be a star. You need to be, I'm talking Usher and that level. This dude has it all. He has the vocals. He has the charisma. He has some of the funniest songs I have heard. He connects with his audience through his music. But he has the vocals to absolutely back it up. His last album I thought was very well done, but Wanderlust takes everything to another level. Because the thing about Duran is he never compromises who he is as a man or an artist. He is not going to pretend to be something else. He is going to be as fabulous and goofy and silly as he wants to be, but he's also going to emphasize his vocals. He's going to play with your ear. He's going to play with your writing. He's going to give you straight up anthems, because some of these songs to me are anthem worthy. You talking about TikTok challenges? Why ain't TikTok challenges on the mango butter? Where's the mango butter TikTok challenge? There are things here that I feel like really resonate and are very timely for our community. And he has the vocal chops to push that forward, because the talent is just oozing off this brother. Again, if you have not heard this album, I can't give it the highest enough recommendation, in my opinion. And that's why you're listening to this video. Duran Bernard's Wanderlust, the best R&B album of 2022. I've gone on record and I said it. And if I said it, I meant it. Make my boy a star, because he should be. I know he is a star, but I want him to be a supernova, a comet, as Andre 3000 would say. Make him a star. Alright, before we go to our top 3 albums, I'm going to take a break real quick and just hit on some honorable mentions. Again, go to soulandstereo.com to see the full list of 50 albums, plus that one edition we had with Absol. And you can see a list of 20 honorable mentions that didn't quite get in. I listened to like almost 200 albums, y'all. I couldn't get them all in, but I had to show love to some that I do. So check out a few honorable mentions that missed this video, and check out soulandstereo.com to see what your boy had to say about them. D Roth, hook him up with that. Coming in at number 3, Pusha T, It's Almost Dry. Look, I know I said this about Ransom. I may have said this about some others on this list. This video long, I can't remember. I'm old too. Point is this. Pusha T, if you heard a Pusha album, you know what you gonna get. You know you gonna get all the coke rap in the world. He is not gonna change the game, and he will not change the game. But here's why his music continues to be so compelling, even though it's still always following the same template. Because there are few in this game who can weave a story, coke fueled as it is, as Pusha T. His ability to just capture the essence of the Jay-Z's and the Bigs and the forefathers before him, and to kind of weave that into his storytelling and to play with his lyrics. When I reviewed his album, Call My Bluff, it's an album where he completely changed his flow, and it really threw me off. And I literally listened to that song driving on the way to the home today, and I'm like, this song is so weird, but it's so creatively done, and it takes a lyrical mastery to be able to do that. So even if someone was like, I'm going to do this song, it would sound ridiculous. But he's able to pull it off because he's Pusha T. This album works because he sticks to his strengths, and his strengths are so much stronger than anybody else's. Pusha is almost dry, might not be as good as Daytona, in my opinion, still his best work. Might not be as big or great as some of the Clips albums. Although shout out to Malice for making the surprise return on this album. Might not be as good as those. But in a field of hip hop that gets very stagnant, I'm always good for a little bit of solid, so just good old fashioned, knowing where you come from, some solid work from a dependable MC. Pusha gonna give you them coke bars, and they gonna be off the chain. Alright, coming in at number 2, yes, it's Nas, and it is King's Disease 3. Look, I could say this 3rd time's the charm, but what? I guess it's 4 times at this point. Nas has been working with Hit Boy for the past couple years and been on one of the most impressive runs of his career. It's weird for me to say that Nas is underrated, but in my opinion, I believe he had been underrated. He had a few stumbles in the late 90s, and for some reason, especially older hip-hop fans, are still talking about Nostradamus like that thing just came out. Player, that song is older than your child. Though that album is, oh yes, I don't like you, Omi, but your kids, it outdates your children. Like, let's get off of that. In the years since, he has put out incredible work, but for whatever reason, whether it's kind of the sourness of that, maybe it was a Jay-Z feud, definitely younger fans who tuned him out because they saw him as an artist that wasn't for them, have all come back around because Hit Boy has not only rejuvenated his sound, but he's been able to kind of bring his arm along to a younger generation who aren't really messing with Nas because they just saw him as, oh, that's my uncle's favorite rapper, that's my daddy's favorite rapper. But when you put an artist that they're, or a producer that they're familiar with, and an artist of that level, and introduce them to them, they're like, oh, well, he might rap a little bit better than the people that I'm used to. He might be a little better than 21 Savage. You know what I'm saying? But the point is, Nas, beyond that, beyond the doubters, he's always been a top tier MC, and a lot of albums that y'all sleep on have been incredible. This King's Disease 3 is an album that thankfully nobody's sleeping on because it's incredible. We've heard King's Disease 1, 2, the Magic mixtape, and all of those are great. I still think King's Disease 2 is a slight winner of those, but King's Disease 3 might be the most consistent of the bunch because it is just bars on bars on bars on bars on bars. Anybody that has the foresight to sample the 5 heartbeats and pull it off, you are a win in my book, sir. Nas is on this incredible streak because he feels the confidence in himself. You can just hear it in his bars. He's not questioning who he is as an MC. He doesn't care if you're not feeling what he's saying anymore because he knows he's the best rapper alive right now. And oh yes, oh yes, oh yes, he's the best rapper alive right now. Doesn't have the best album right now, but he's the best rapper alive right now. And that comes with the confidence that Hit Boy has given him. This pairing with Hit Boy has rejuvenated Nas's career to unseen levels and put him back on top that we knew him to be in '94. The best in the game at the time. So, what we have come to learn from King's Disease 3 is not only that the bars are still there, the production is still there, Nas is as good as he's ever been, and he continues to be the benchmark for hip-hop in our game. There's a reason why Esco will never fall off. King's Disease 3, confirmation of that. And yes, coming in at number 1, finally we are here. Kendrick Lamar, Mr. Morale, and the Big Steppers. So, when I first did this album review, I was actually away from home. I was on vacation. And I had told my friends, and people were messaging me like, you have to hear this album, we got to see your review. I was like, I'll check it out when I get back to the crib. But something told me to take a listen. And I sat at an Airbnb and I listened to that album and I immediately just started writing. Just started writing because I was inspired by everything he said. And after I listened to that album and listened to it again and listened to it again and wrote, it came to my attention that this album, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, would wind up being the first 5-star album review in soul and stereo history since Nas's 2012 Life is Good. And funny that our boy Nas was at number 2 on the list. Look at these two kings right beside each other. Why was this a 5-star release? Because not only was it an album that was highly anticipated, that didn't really weigh in. We know how great Kendrick is. The reason why this took it to that level is because he was so open on so many levels. He was able to talk about the mental health aspect he was struggling with. He was talking about the struggles with relationships. He was talking about the difficulties that he had wrapping his mind around the changes in his family, from his aunt and his cousin and them coming to terms with their sexual identity and how he looked at sexual identity. He was able to talk about the fatherhood issues that black men go through in our community. He was talking about the struggles of, oh my gosh, one of the most powerful songs of the year, the struggles that his mother went through with abuse. These songs were so touching that I could not turn away. But here's what makes this album very controversial, and I knew it would happen. So many couldn't resonate with it. So when I gave it 5 stars, people were like, what? This is the worst Kendrick album I've ever heard. There are no bangers on it. There's nothing that connects with me. Ain't nothing fun on it. It's just a bunch of songs with him screaming at a girl, or him using slurs incorrectly, or him talking about his mama. I don't want to hear this sad stuff. This album isn't an album for fun. This is an album for bangers. And there are a couple songs up there that, of course, were there for radio play and streaming. This wasn't that album. Kendrick has gotten to a level in his stardom. Well, he doesn't have to release stuff. He doesn't have to release an album that's going to get 1,000 streams. He doesn't have to release an album that, I got to have a radio hit. He's not trying to Drake it to death where he's like, let me get 2 singles, throw some other crap up there, but as long as I got something for TikTok, I'll be safe. That's not how he's looking at it. He is in a place where he is using his art to be expressive and to talk about what's going on in his life and to helpfully connect with someone. And for me, it connected. I think that the one fault of this album is that you have to be at a certain place in your life to really connect with what Kendrick has going on. If you haven't gone through what he's gone through yet, it's going to go completely over your head. And it may be an album that will connect with you years later. But as of right now, when it comes to his artistic expression, the themes that he talked about, how timely it is, and even though a lot of the think piece people got really mad when he kept it real and said, I'm not your savior. When you're looking for the person to come through and to yell at a protest or to kind of echo the thoughts that you think I should be echoing about social justice or whatever's going on at the time, I'm going to talk in my own terms. But I'm not here to be this flawless avatar for you because I'm not flawless. He has the weight of the world on his shoulders, and he was very expressive in talking about why that is heavy to him and why that should not be heavy for others. To a brother like me who has to connect with so many people around the world, who has to be there for so many people, who has to be the bullhorn for so many people, it's a lot, y'all. And he was able to say, look, be you. You don't have to be all things for all people. As a person that connected with me, and the themes that were written here, I think are flawlessly executed. One of the best albums ever written in the past decade. No, it ain't got no bangers. No, it ain't got no turn up. No, he ain't puffing on those zooties. No, he ain't doing none of that stuff. Go find a Future album. Go find a DJ Khaled album for that. This album is deeply different on a spiritual and emotional level, and that's why it succeeds. In my opinion, the best album of 2022 and a 5-star release. In my opinion, you ain't getting better than that. 2022 had some good albums, had some great albums, but it only had one #1, Kendrick Lamar. And that's it. That is 25 albums, plus a little bit more if you count the honorable mentions of the year. But that's not it. Not only is this video wrapped up, this video marks 1 year. Yes, 1 year for the Soul and Stereo Sessions. This is a project that I've had in the back of my mind for forever now, and I finally stepped out and was able to do it. So, from me and to the staff here at Soul and Stereo Studios, all the people that you see on the videos every week, I just want to take a moment to just thank you.
Thanks for a great year, y'all.
Nah, bro, I ain't thanking y'all for nothing, bro. Ain't nothing to thank you for, bro. Thanks for rolling with your boy, Young Cuz. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us for 2022. Can't wait till 2023. We're gonna have more fun. We're gonna have more album rankings. We're gonna have more reviews. We're gonna have more opportunities for you to cancel me. But it's gonna be a great time. Thanks for rolling with your boy and this whole crew. And as always, this edition of the Soul and Stereo Sessions is a wrap.
Wait, are you done?
Yeah.
Where's the Beyonce album?
Not on this list. Play on, players.